In this video, I will explore the fly stitch together with you. I'm using multiple embroidery and non-embroidery threads, so I will show everything in the description below so that you can use the same materials, but feel free to use any materials you like. For the first fly stitch modification or variation, I'm using this Sulky cotton 12 thread. I think it's a little bit like a pearl thread, and I want to stitch I don't know how to say it in English, a swarm or a flock of birds flying across the sky. And so I'm doing a lot of fly stitches for this one. Fly stitch creates a little V shape, and you can add a very short stitch like I did for the middle stitch in this part of the video, or with a longer stitch or medium length stitch, so you can change up the appearance of the stitch in any way you want to, and we will do that in the course of this video. So this variation is more like the base stitch, and I'm doing more wider stitches like the one I overlapped in this stitch. So the stitch I have done right now was the classic shape, and the one I'm stitching right now is also a very classic shape, but I'm alternating the stitch width for this particular motif. So I'm doing more wider stitches, and like this one, the V shape is much more open, and then I also change the length of the stitches that fixate the V shape, so the one I'm doing right now. And this results in various shapes for birds, and you can use them to show them flying far away in the sky, or if you want to do a flying flock, I don't know, sounds weird, but if you want to show many birds flying across the sky, the fly stitch is a very easy stitch to do just that, and that is what I'm doing right now. So I wanted to stitch very many birds, so this takes a while to embroider, but I find it very relaxing to do the same stitch again and again, but in this more chaotic style. So I don't use some sort of markings on my fabric to position each stitch exactly like I imagined or something, but I go with my instinct a little bit here and just place birds wherever I want to. So there are some tricks to do that, and here you can see a fly stitch doesn't produce many threads on the back side, so it's a little bit tricky to secure the end, but I'm making a knot in the end, or maybe 2 knots, and then thread the needle through the existing stitches on the back and secure it like that. I'm using different shades of this light beige cream type of thread. This is the neutral set of the Cotton 12 embroidery collection, and I liked working with it, but I must say in this particular case I couldn't see a lot of difference in the embroidery stitches. So I imagined to have the lighter shades in the background with smaller fly stitches, and darker shades in the foreground and middle ground with a little bit larger fly stitches, so that you have some sort of 3-dimensional position of the bird, so that it looks like that there are birds flying more in the back and some are more in the foreground. So that didn't work out as much as I liked it or wanted it to be, but I think fly stitches stitched in this way also work without trying the three-dimensional stuff. So I think it looks just fine just doing the stitches like I'm showing here. I recently saw a picture by Olanda Co. Embroidery on Instagram. I try to link all of that in the description below. And she made this effect by stitching some fly stitches or birds, then applying some tulle over it. So a very thin fabric that lets the fly stitches shine through, and then she stitched some stitches again and made a layer of tulle on it again, and so on and so on. So the stitches in the back became lighter and lighter with every layer of additional fabric that she would add, and I like that effect very much. But I think you could do that with embroidery threads in different shades too. My shades just weren't distinct enough to see anything of that. So if you want to use a black thread or gray threads, I think that works just fine. For the aesthetic or for the color scheme of this embroidery hoop, I wanted to use this set of embroidery thread, and here you can see a little bit that the first stitches are a little bit more brownish beigeish, and the ones on the right are much lighter. So I am repeating this on and on, so I will speed it up a little bit because it is quite repetitive to watch it. But I just wanted to say it is very relaxing to just make these chaotic stitches, to not be bound to a specific pattern, just see or watch the pattern evolve while you are stitching it. And I think you can do that too. I'm providing a pattern each month for the simple outlines in this case, and you can recreate the pattern I'm stitching here if you are a patron member. The next part is stitched with a very fluffy yarn. It is a hand knitting yarn. I am not sure. I think this company is called a different name in America. I think it's, I don't know exactly. It's called Drops or Garnstudio in Germany, and I think it's called differently in America. But as I said, I will link all of that in the video description, so maybe you can find it, or maybe I can find it in American too. I know that this yarn is sold worldwide essentially, so I'm sure you can find it, and it's called brushed alpaca silk, and it's a mix of alpaca and silk threads, and the fluffy part is the alpaca, I think, and the silk core thread makes it very durable, and it is very nice to stitch with. I used this one in the previous episode of stitchlab for the woven roses or for the spider wheels, and liked it so much, and that I wanted to know if I can stitch with it, because the woven rose is much more easy on the threads, because you don't pull it through the fabric as often, but for fly stitches you pull it through the fabric quite often. I'm not sure if you can hear my rooster in the background. I opened the window to let out a bee. So I hope you enjoyed the country audio in the background, and I hope that it's not too loud. So there it was. I'm pretty sure you can hear it. So I'm using this fluffy yarn to make some sort of twigs, or maybe a tree that has its branches leaning into the picture. And here I'm using the fly stitch a little bit differently than for the birds. For the birds, I varied the width and length of the stitches, and also of the fixing stitch, so the stitch on the bottom. And here I wanted to do much more asymmetrical stitches, so you can see I'm stitching into it and not coming up in the middle exactly. Okay, for this one too, I did, but there are previous stitches where you can see that one arm is much longer or shorter than the other, and that is because I'm doing it much more slanted and yeah, make it a lot more irregular and asymmetrical than the other stitches. I'm using single stitches to complete each branch because you you have some limitations with the fly stitch, so I added some single stitches just to finish the branch off, so to say. I'm finishing off this thread. Oh man. As a German, I always have a little bit of trouble with the TH, so sometimes it is hard for me to pronounce things, and sometimes it's not. I don't speak English very often. I read a lot and I hear a lot, but it's just different if you have to speak it. So yeah, I'm adding many more fly stitches. So here I'm adding single stitches again, just to add a little bit of extra. Here is a very asymmetrical fly stitch. As you can see, the left arm is much shorter than the one on the right, and I think this looks very good to and it's very easy to stitch branches with. I used this one for a piece that I did for my very first art expedition, not exhibition, that I did in March, and I enjoyed using the fly stitch for adding branches to my piece, and wanted to show how it's done in this embroidery video, because it is very enjoyable to recreate. For this entire picture, I'm never using any kind of markings on my fabric, so it is all freestyle, free hand embroidery, and I think it is very easy to get this done with the fly stitch. I don't know, maybe this is just because I like the fly stitch so much and it comes very easily to me, but you can recreate this too. I always start at the end of the branch, and then from there out I let the branch grow towards the bottom. I think this is a very easy way to stitch branches or trees. You can even do trees with it. For trees, I would suggest adding more stem stitches or single stitches to thicken the trunk towards the, or is it called trunk? No, trunk is when you cut it off, right? So the stem of the tree, so that you have different thicknesses of each part of the tree. So the top branches are a little bit thinner, and then they get thicker if you go towards the bottom. Here I'm using the fly stitch in reverse, so I just made one stitch and then looped the fly stitch around it, similar to the reverse chain stitch that you can do in a similar matter or in a similar way. You can add some lines to have some sort of guideline. If you are a little bit insecure with stitching completely freehand, I added some lines for the template that I'm showing on Patreon, so that you can have some sort of guideline that you can follow. Recently, I have started using different types of threads for my embroidery pieces, just to try and see what it looks like or what it feels like, because not every thread is usable for embroidery or easily usable for embroidery. As I mentioned before, not every thread takes the abrasion very well that you get by moving the thread through the fabric. But especially hand knitting yarns, I have found quite a bit of different types of threads that work very nicely through fabric. So I was very surprised, because I have tried hand knitting yarns before for embroidery, and it never ended very well. So that was a nice experience to see that there are many more threads that I can use. And the good thing about hand knitting yarns or crocheting threads is that there is a lot of it, many meters or yards, for a comparatively low price. Embroidery threads are quite expensive because they have to do a lot. They have to be very very sturdy, so that you can really do anything with it on fabric. And hand knitting yarns, there you have so many yards on your skeins that it is very nice to use for the very thread expensive I don't know what this is, like satin stitch or so. You have many embroidery techniques that use really a lot of thread, and especially satin stitch eats up a lot of thread. And using hand knitting yarn for that creates a lovely texture, especially when you use silk threads or wool threads, but it is not as expensive. And I have thought about using it for counted work. I have seen many really great embroidery templates made by the Fabled Thread, and she makes these extremely large wool tapestries that are stitched with very long threads, and I would really enjoy doing that. And my husband, or soon to be husband, I'm marrying this May, and it's not far away now. But he said, I would love to do that. So I'm thinking about making a little embroidery kit for him so that he can do some sort of long stitch, big tapestry thing. And the motif that she was doing in the video was a ship, and I don't know how big it is, but it is, I think it's wider than my arms, maybe both of them, or maybe exactly the width. And that looked like a lot of fun. And if you are using very thick threads and counted fabrics that have very big holes, it is comparatively quick to stitch. It takes a lot of time, but it's not the same as using 6 stranded embroidery threads with 1 or 2 threads like I do for most of my work. So I think that would be a lot of fun to do. So I link her in the video description too. So the branches are finished, and now I'm stitching this little horizon line, so that there's some sort of not realism, but that you can see what is the sky and what is the earth, and that you can distinguish a little bit between the background and the middle ground and the foreground, and this field that I'm going to stitch is stitched also with fly stitches, but I just wanted to make a little more of a separation than just having each area stitched with fly stitches, because as you can see, the fly stitch is a very open stitch, and at least the way it is stitched now. I will show a very closed and covering method too, but for this line I just used a very open stem stitch. So I made a stitch forwards and then went back a slight bit, as it's really a short stitch, come up and go again. So it is the same movement as the stem stitch, but it's not stitched exactly like that. So I'm doing some very tall fly stitches, so they are much more narrow. I don't go as wide as for the birds at the top, and I'm using a more green shade of the set, of the neutral set, and yeah, I'm doing a bit of chaotic stitching in here too, but this time I am covering much more of the fabric. I wanted to make it like not flowers but little shrubs or little herbs, something like that, so it should appear like little plant parts. And in this moment I realized, oh, I should have stitched the green parts first and then added the trees, because as you can see, I have to navigate around the previous stitches a bit, so it would have been easier to stitch this part second after the birds and then add the branches from the right and left afterwards. But as you can see, you can just move the needle under the embroidery stitches from before and navigate around that a little bit. It's a little bit more tricky to do, but it's not impossible. So I added this sort of grass shapes so that there's a little bit of a field to see too, and yeah, that worked quite well. I'm using different areas here, so there are areas that are very densely stitched, and then there are areas that are very lightly stitched. So you can see here that I'm stitching over the horizon line too, and that I'm adding more stitches on the left and right, but I wanted to just have something counter the more bigger branches on the left side, and that it is a bit balanced, so that not all of the visual effects are on one side or on the other side. And it helps if you add more more loose stitches on the side that is a little bit heavier or becomes heavier, and add a little more dense areas on the side that feels lighter at the moment. I hope I can express myself. It's not easy to say all that in English for me. So I hope I get my point across. So yeah, I'm adding many more stitches. I enjoy doing this while hearing a podcast or watching a series or something on a movie on TV, and it is really easy to switch off my brain a little bit from thinking about the current state of the world or other things that are happening in my life so far, and just experience this state of flow, of creative flow that you have with with hobbies that are very repetitive, or with movements that are very repetitive. And that's what I liked about doing all these fly stitches and fly stitch textures, that you can just do things without really following anything particular, or just doing stuff. To achieve this type of chaotic stitching, you have to be very aware that you don't repeat the same patterns again and again. So that can be a little bit tricky. So try to hop or jump between the stitches a little bit, so that you don't repeat any patterns. So for the next one, I'm doing it's a very close fly stitch, so it's basically a chain stitch to start the leaf. So I'm doing leaves now. This is also a thread made by Garnstudio, or drops as it's called in German. And I'm doing fly stitches very close to each other, and make a very short embroidery stitch to secure each fly stitch. So you can see that the shape is forming, and I will change the scene a little bit so that it's more centered. Right now I know it's very much on the bottom, but it is easier to see what I do in this picture, so I left it in. But I will move it to the middle soon. So it was a little bit tricky to film at the moment. So you can see that this forms like a square or a kite shape, and it looks also a little bit like a leaf, I think. And this embroidery stitch is very easy to stitch in this way. I found it very refreshing to have such a stitch that is not so, difficult to do. I personally don't have a problem with doing fishbone stitch, but I have heard many people have problems doing the fishbone stitch for leaves, and I think that the fly stitch leaf can be a very easy way to do leaves. And that this might be a good solution or alternative if you don't like the fishbone stitch, or don't like to stitch the fishbone stitch. And it uses very little embroidery thread on the back, so it is a thread saving technique basically. And here you can see a second leaf. If you just follow the outline of the previous stitch, so I stitch a little bit further down and next to the previous stitch, so that the leaf shape comes naturally. So it kind of just evolves on its own. And so I found that very, very easy to work with. For this one too, you can do longer stitches or longer leaves. The more fly stitches you add, the longer or wider the leaf becomes, and then you can do smaller ones, like I'm also doing in this video. So it is quite quick. I'm using this thicker yarn, so if you want to do the fly stitch for covering leaves, I would suggest using 6-stranded embroidery thread, or thicker ones like this one. 6-stranded embroidery threads, or maybe 3 strands would work as well, but I wouldn't do 2 or 1 thread, because it might be too thin to really cover the fabric, I think. So I haven't tried it yet, so maybe it works, but I think you would need at least 3 embroidery strands to make it work. And yeah, that's the first part with the 3 leaves. I like that very much, and now I'm adding many more to the other side. You can see that I'm still not using any marks, and that everything just grows basically out of my hands and my imagination. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I have stitched a completely freehand before. I made a little sketch beforehand to just position the horizon line a little bit, and so that I can sort my idea, but you don't have to do it necessarily. Yeah, and if you want the leaves to be a little bit rounder, you can add single stitches at the bottom. So you can see that the threads are very long at the bottom, and if you add some tiny stitches there, you can make the stitch or the leaf a little bit, yeah, rounder and oval, so that works. But I personally think that they look pretty much like a leaf should look, so I think it works just fine. I thought that I did one of those stitches, but when I synchronized the German version of this video, I realized I didn't, so I couldn't show you. So yeah, try it out if you want to, but this works fine. I'm adding single stitches to make some extra branches too, so you can make a mixture of the branches for the tree and then add some leaves with this type of fly stitching afterwards, or if you want to use the same thread, you can use the same threads too. So I think that would look great too if you add some fly stitch leaves to the branches. So I enjoyed using these 3 types of threads, because in this case the more thicker threads are in the foreground, and they make the foreground much more tactile and more, is tactile the right word? It feels like you can touch it, just like if you stand in front of leaves, you can touch them in real life too. And then the branches in the back or in the middle ground are much more thinner, but they are also still thick and lush, and you can see them. And then you have the things like the greenery in the back and the birds flying in the sky, and those are much more thinner and feel more elusive. So this is how it looks in the end. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please leave a like or maybe a subscribe, and you can watch other videos like this where I showcase a particular stitch in this stitchlab series. And I did another one which is the woven rose or woven spider wheel, and you can watch it here. I wish you a lovely day and happy stitching!